For a simple 90s brat that ate well on the Raimi films and stellar animated series, going all the way back to the 1960s to see where Spidey began, turned out to be quite an experience. One that was a bit different than I thought, in some ways better, in other ways worse. Apparently back then, they weren't even called superheroes. Anyone in the know simply referred to them as long underwear characters. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but let me tell you, 1,000,000 words couldn't draw me a more solid image of what exactly it means to be a hero. What immediately stuck out to me as I flipped through the first page was just how dense it is. The pages are absolutely flooded with text, over half of which didn't carry almost any weight. Yet despite the overbearing letter walls, the plot somehow manages to sprint along at a breakneck speed. Before you've even had a chance to look up the difference between a cha-cha and a waltz, boom, Peter has powers. Multiple pages to show us how incredibly unpopular he is. A few quick panels to introduce Aunt May and Uncle Ben, relegating them to nothing more than cardboard cutouts. Just simple, innocent people caught in the crossfire of Peter's ego. And right after that, our boy is just scaling walls like he's been at it forever. See that little guy go? Completely immune to the fears of heights and gravity. I understand that Stan Lee and Steve Ditko probably had a very limited page count to work with, but the pacing here made me feel like I had somehow missed that fresh power feel. Like getting a brand new car, but instead of enjoying that crisp first time smell, you douse the entire thing in Febreze. You need a moment to relish it, breathe in deep, and really enjoy the experience. Interesting little knowledge nugget, the word Spider-Man actually has no hyphens here. I checked through the whole issue and couldn't find a single one. I think it'll be interesting as I push through more issues to find out at what point they actually decided to add it. I found myself surprised at how genuinely dark and flawed Peter is. If you didn't already know, the long underwear character he is destined to become, you could easily mistake this for a villain's origin story. He is incredibly selfish, greedy, and in desperate need of validation. In fact, getting his spider powers almost seemed to increase and amplify his very worst character traits, especially his greed. From the limited experience that I have with 60s comics, or well, comics in general really, giving your characters faults like this was a fairly unique idea. I think that aspect really makes him a pretty interesting character. In his arrogance, Peter lets a thief go, not interested in helping anyone but himself, and it just happens to be a moment that will change his life forever. It really sucks that Ben had to die, but honestly, I think this event truly saved Peter. The lesson he learned from inadvertently being responsible for the death of a loved one taught him a lesson that would shape his character permanently. With great power comes great responsibility. A legendary line, one that is deeply and structurally tied to Uncle Ben in pop culture. The funny thing is, he didn't even say it. It's merely a caption box written by the narrator to end the book. Well boys, Hyphen Watch is officially off the menu, dying a pitiful death right here on the very cover issue of number 1. Rest in peace to that running joke, it died well before its time. Or maybe? Reading through this issue, one major thing is obvious to me. Marvel sucked at editing. Half this issue Spider-Man's hyphened, half it's not. Weird uses of grammar are rampant. We get the rise of Peter Palmer. I'm pretty sure that they literally forgot the name of the main character because he is referred to as Peter Palmer multiple times in this issue. Also, part 1 and part 2 have like completely different kinds of issues, so I don't even think the whole thing was edited by the same person. Anyways, things kick off with a heavy dose of reality. Both Peter and Aunt May are immediately dealing with the fallout of Uncle Ben's death, and with the bills piling up, Peter's very first thought isn't heroic, it's straight up to steal money with his powers. In fact, money is the biggest motivator for Peter throughout this entire issue. There is even a nifty little side quest that involves him trying to cash a check as Spider-Man, which obviously he can't, but the whole shtick got a little chuckle out of me. It's an interesting choice, flipping many of the norms of superheroes around this time. Peter isn't rich or attractive, or at this point, even heroic. He's just a kid trying to figure out how he can use his shiny new powers to better his life. He tries his hands in showbiz and further sinks his social life with the other students as we see him forced to pick Spider-Man over Peter Parker for, I think, the first time. The Marvel Universe just can't turn down the opportunity to kick at Spider-Man, so enter J. Jonah Jameson, Spidey's first and longest running villain. I just want to give quick props to JK for his adaptation of JJ, because every panel I read with this man is literally narrated with his voice in my mind. He is the true embodiment of owning your role. It's impressive how much a man with not an ounce of power, sense of style, or even charisma is able to so effectively get in Spider-Man's way. JJ's living nice and cozy up in Spider-Man's head. Also, look at all these sick M-dashes, proving that AI was ruining your stories as far back as 1962. That must be how Jonah was able to spam so much content about our masked crusader. Still hard up for cash after the dreaded spider check, Peter decides to audition for the Fantastic Four by breaking into their headquarters and fighting them. No big deal, really. He actually does pretty well, but he'll soon find out a really unfortunate truth. They're a non-profit organization. It was honestly pretty smart to have Spidey immediately cross over with your other big superheroes so early. It showed that from the very beginning, they wanted to create a true sandbox, a world where our long underwear characters can coexist. After this, Spidey faces his second villain of the book, the Chameleon. The Chameleon somehow contacts Spider-Man using radio frequency or something. I'm really not sure. Stan was still clearly not only trying to remember the names of his main character, but also what his spider senses were actually capable of. At this point, it seems to just do whatever the plot actually needs it to. I'll be honest, this part of the story was a bit of a letdown for me. Chameleon does some icky things in a Spidey suit and further sinks Peter's reputation. I just don't really find him that interesting as a villain. Spidey gets the victory and eventually he is upset because he feels like every time he tries to help, he just loses. Well, on to issue 2, and oh boy are we at it again with the editing team. J. Jonah Jameson is now apparently running Now Magazine. I'm almost certain that it has already been stated that he works for the Daily Bugle, and Flash shows up here as well, looking very strangely similar to one Mr. Moose from the very first page. As someone fairly new to comic book gig, is it common to find this many inconsistencies, or is this just kind of a thing of the times? I'm not really sure. Despite that, I thought this issue was superior to the last one. I guess if I was going to rate them, I'd probably go Amazing Fantasy 15 at number 1, issue 2 next, and last probably issue 1. Chameleon was kinda lame. Sorry if there's any Chameleon fans out there. This time around, we have a better one, the Vulture, to go with our obvious animal theme. If I was to give JJ animal powers, what exactly would they be? Honey badger, maybe? Or walrus? I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Anyways, back to the Vulture. You just have to love how simple these supervillain schemes are, as he literally alerts the cops to his next heist by just chucking a rock through their window. Somehow, Vulture catches Spidey completely unaware. His attack must have been the wrong frequency for Peter's spider senses to pick up. I don't really know. Anyways, this elderly man with no super strength, at least as far as I'm aware, effortlessly carries our hero to a nearby water tower like a sack of potatoes and dumps him in there. Thankfully, Spidey is able to escape by jumping really hard. I just wanted to give a little side note here. I want to give a quick shout out to Steve Ditko's art. I just feel like it's really improved, and we're only like 3 issues in. Spidey seems a lot more lifelike and fluid. I don't know if it was just random thought that jumped at me while I was reading and I wanted to share it. Anyways, Peter suddenly kind of just knows exactly how the Vulture's wings work, and he builds the exact gadget he needs to be able to disable them, which is unfortunate for the Vulture, considering his plan to use the sewers where nobody expected him was low-key kind of genius. At least they didn't take his suit before putting him in jail. What a nice gesture by the NYPD. While I really like the Vulture as a villain, I thought the writing here was a little bit on the weak side. But on the bright side, I learned what the phrase "I'd give my eye teeth for" means now. Thanks, Dan. For part 2 of this issue, holy text wall, Batman! We are introduced to the Tinker, who is part of a group of aliens trying to conquer Earth by spying on everyone through their radios. Spider-Man strangely doesn't give two shits about the fact that he has discovered an alien race. For some reason, he treats it like any other Tuesday. Honestly, my favorite panel in this whole issue, and maybe even this whole portion of the story, might be this little technical drawing just showing how his web shooters work. Kind of an awesome little bit of world building. Ultimately, the aliens are defeated without really much of an issue, and they flee into outer space, never to return again until the next time.